What's the story, Morning Glory? What is the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of 90 Day Fiance, Season 11, Episode 7, The Price of Love. And y'all, what is the price of love? It is the cost of how many cows? 15 cows at 1.1 million Uganda shillings at 3,000 US dollars. That is the price of love. Let's get into it. So Greg and Joan. Joan now has been there for about a week. And I feel like it's been more like a month, but it's only been a week since she's been living with Greg and his mother. And she's having a conversation through FaceTime with her family. And they talk about how she tells her family that Greg doesn't have a job, that Greg really doesn't have that much money. And the family is asking about the dowry. They're like, okay, but we're still expecting him to pay the dowry. Evidently, her family is waiting on this money. This was her father's dying wish, I guess, for Greg to pay this dowry to help the family out financially, in exchange for Joan coming to America to marry this man. So her family is like, yes, when is this going to be happening? And so she tells her family he is just not financially stable. So she gets an opportunity to talk to Greg about the finances. So they're outside in the chicken coop collecting eggs that the chickens had laid. And I'm looking at Joan, I'm looking at what she's wearing, which is a really cute outfit. The girl can dress really well. She's always dressed to impress. But I'm like, girl, when are we going to get into some t-shirt and jeans or some sweatpants when you're outside collecting eggs from the chicken coop or doing yard work? I need you to, put on something a little bit more casual so that you don't dirty up or damage your really nice clothes. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So they are outside collecting eggs, and Greg's mom leaves, and she gives Greg like a list of chores to do, like he has to water the garden, etc., while she is at work. But they take this opportunity when the mom leaves to have some intimacy. So if they finally get that done, and then afterwards they're back outside because Greg has to water the yard, per his mom's instructions. And while they're out there, Joan tells him that she's tired of having to sneak around all the time, just to have sex with her husband. So she's like, I'm a grown woman. I'm engaged to be married. We're not teenagers. It's not, I can't do this sneaking around thing. Every time your mom turns her back, or we have to wait until she leaves for work, for us to do what adults need to do. So when are we going to get our own place? And she also says to him that he should not have turned down that government job that was offered to him. And Greg, thank God, realizes that, what he did was wrong by turning down that job. He finally admits that he should not have turned down that job, because she's like, you know what, it's nice spending time with you, but I'm sick and tired of living with your mom. I'm tired of living with your mom. And it has to be really bad if it's only been a week and she's ready to get the hell on out of there. So she says that she wants them to have their own place, and she tells him that if he doesn't make it happen soon, because she was expecting to only stay with his mom for like 6 months at the most. He told her it could be like up to 2 years. So she tells him, if this doesn't happen soon where we get our own place, I'm going to go back to Uganda. And he stops mid-track of watering the yard, and he looks at her and he's like, what? What did you just say? And she didn't stutter. She spoke very clearly and concisely. She says, if this doesn't get any better, we get our own place, I'm going back home to Uganda. I'm tired of playing these games with you. So Greg says that he has been looking for work, and he's been like diligently working for work. He is sending out his resumes to a whole bunch of places. This is something that he is dealing with on a daily. And she had no idea. She's like, what? Really? And he's like, yeah, what do you think I'm doing? Just, sitting on my butt all day? Yes, I've been looking for work, and I've been, working hard trying to find a job. I've sent my resume to a whole bunch of different places, blah, 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 blah. She had no idea. Greg says that if he had a regular 9 to 5, he reminds her, if I had a regular 9 to 5, I wouldn't be able to have traveled to Uganda to see you as often. And I'm like, Greg, no, 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 no. We would rather you have a steady paycheck to have your own place to live with your soon-to-be wife, and sacrifice all those trips to Uganda because y'all can still FaceTime. you can still communicate, you can still build your relationship in other ways other than you traveling to Uganda so many times a year. So you could have still developed your relationship and still had a job and still had steady income coming in, preparing um preparing everything for Joan to come here. She could have come here into her own home, just the two of y'all together, and y'all could have started your own life together instead of her feeling really uncomfortable. And I'm pretty sure she feels like she's walking on eggshells living with your mother, because the mom doesn't seem like the most welcoming of people. Okay. I'm not saying that she's awful and she's the worst, but she just doesn't give me that warm and fuzzy feeling. I seriously doubt that the mom and Joan are staying up into the wee hours of the morning drinking coffee and talking and gossiping and watching TV together. I seriously doubt they have that kind of relationship. And I feel like Joan feels really uncomfortable living with this woman, and vice versa. The mother probably feels very uncomfortable having this woman in her home. So he talks about how he's been, looking for work, and how, he was just trying to spend as much time with her as possible, etc. So then she brings up the dowry. She says, my family's still expecting you to pay for this dowry, which is, I think it was like 15 cows. And he says something like, well, who the hell can afford 15 cows? And Joan was like, a lot of people can. It's just you that can't. And so he was like, well, how much is that going to be? And so it came out to like about $3,000. And he's like, I got to pay $3,000 for the dowry. And, I still have to pay for the wedding. I got to do all of this on my own. And Joan stood 10 toes down, and she just looked at that man and she was like, yeah, honey, you do. Yeah, exactly. You're going to have to do all of that. And if you were just, more responsible, you would have had a decent job that would have awarded you to be able to pay for a lot of this stuff. So she's really putting the pressure on him, and he says he doesn't want her to go back to Uganda. So hopefully this is going to motivate him to try to, get something going, to try to hurry up and get them their own place. I don't think she cares what it is, if it's a shack, an apartment, an efficiency, a townhouse. I don't think she cares. She just wants her own space, as any woman that is about to get married and start this new life with her husband, as any woman would want. Let's move on from there. Let's talk about Mina and Mark. So it is round 2 of Mina versus Jordan. After Mina had said that she didn't want to spend any more time with the family because she had that confrontation with Jordan, and she had disinvited or uninvited Jordan from the wedding. After all of that, she has to face these people again. So they're going to try again. So Jordan and her boyfriend meet up with Mark and Mina and little Maria to get on the ferry to take them to the island or wherever, where the rest of the family is going to be waiting for them. So on their way there on the ferry, oh, by the way, when they first met up with Jordan, Jordan and Mina did not greet each other at all. But I was a little bit perturbed that Jordan didn't even greet the baby. She didn't even greet little Maria. And I'm like, that's still your sister. That is still your father's daughter. Like, why can't you say hi to the baby? Like, why are you ignoring the baby as well? I mean, that didn't sit right with me at all. So everybody's on the ferry. And for the most part, they weren't speaking to each other at all, Mina and Jordan. But at some point, Jordan decided to try to make amends with Mina. And she attempts to talk to her and tell her, look, let's just start all over. We started off on a really bad start. So let's just, start fresh and try to get along and, try to coexist. And so Mina's like, okay, girl, I'm fine with that. So when they get to their destination, I think it's called Bald Head Island. I'm not sure. When they get to their destination, um, Jordan and her boyfriend, they get off the ferry really quickly, and Mina thinks that Jordan is trying to hurry up and get to the family home before they do, so that she can brainwash the family against Mina before Mina arrives. That's why she thinks Jordan and her boyfriend took off so quickly after getting off the ferry. So we finally get to see the family. We meet Mark's parents. We meet his brother, I think his sister-in-law. So we see the rest of the crew. When Mark's mother greeted Mina, it was really sweet. She greeted her. She gave her a hug. She gave her a kiss. She greeted little Maria. And Mark's mother tells us a more positive story about Mina when the whole family had gone to Paris for Maria's baptism. So Mark's mother talks about how even though Mina was really tired when they arrived in Paris for the baptism, she had cooked this big dinner for the whole entire family, and it was really delicious, and she really enjoyed it. So her and Mark's father, I think they both had positive things to say about Mina. But then when we meet the brother, and I think it was Mark's sister-in-law, there was a female that was talking as well. I think that was a sister-in-law. They talk about how at the church on the day of the baptism, Mina had them waiting for 3 or 4 hours. It was really rude of her. There was no explanation as far as why she was taking so long. And evidently that day, Mina's side of the family they knew that the time had changed for the baptism. So she had made them aware, her own family aware, that the baptism was going to be starting later on in the day, but nobody told Mark's family or something like that. So Mark's brother, his sister-in-law, his daughter Jordan, they are still stuck on this baptism, like how they had to wait forever. And I'm just like, but y'all were in Paris. Now, it's no excuse. Nobody wants to be kept waiting. Everybody's time is extremely precious. And I don't know if they had to go back to America that same day, like they were going to, go to Paris, arrive in Paris, do the baptism the next day, and then come back. And maybe that's why they were so frustrated, maybe because they're worried about catching their flight back to the US. I don't know exactly what went on that day, but the way that they are still harboring about the fact that Mina had them waiting for 3 or 4 hours, you would have thought that it was like the worst experience ever. Like they were without food, they were without water, they were out in the wilderness somewhere, getting bitten by bugs out there in the elements. They were in Paris. I don't know. I could be missing something. I'm not saying that they should have enjoyed it, and I'm not saying that Mina had the right to keep them waiting. I'm just saying that if you're going to be in a worst case scenario where you had to wait 3 or 4 hours for somebody to arrive, I'd rather be waiting in Paris than anywhere else. But hey, that's just me. So Mark makes a note that his own brother is very much still his own brother is on Jordan's side, and it doesn't sit well with Mark that his brother is taking Jordan's side. That Mina is this horrible person because they kept them waiting for 3 or 4 hours. So that kind of bothers him. I feel like it's a lot deeper than the baptism. I think that they're using the baptism as an excuse or as a scapegoat. I think that they have other issues with Mina. I don't know what those issues could be, but I'm like, seriously, y'all were inconvenienced for that one day. Okay, y'all are crucifying this woman, not wanting her in your family, not wanting, Mark to marry this woman or expand his family with this woman because of the fact that she kept y'all waiting for 3 or 4 hours. Like, stop bringing that up. If the real issue is money, worried about inheritances and how, the pot is getting lesser and lesser for each individual person as Mark continues to have more children with Mina. If that's your issue, then let's stick with that. Let's talk about that. But the fact that y'all are continuously bringing up, oh, she kept us waiting in Paris, 3 or 4, like, let it go. Mina, if you haven't apologized about that, please hurry up and apologize to these damn people so that they can just let it go. This is episode 4, and we are still talking about the baptism that happened 3 years ago. Okay, fine. So, like I said, we meet the whole family. The brother is very much on Jordan's side, and there's a scene where everybody is on the porch, right? The whole entire family is on the porch, and they're talking about the upcoming wedding for Mina and Mark. They're making jokes about it, et cetera, et cetera. Then here comes Jordan. Here comes Jordan with her doom and gloom self, talking about, well, Dad, have you decided about whether or not you're still going to do a prenuptial agreement with Mina? Just like out of the blue, she brings up something like this. Everybody's on the porch, commiserating, having a good time, laughing and joking, and she has to bring up something so serious and quite personal in this type of setting. And so he says, yeah, we've talked about it. And then Jordan's like, well, you're going to do a prenuptial agreement? You're going to sign a prenup? Is she going to sign a prenup? And Mark is like, yeah, very reluctantly, like, because you can tell he's really uncomfortable. And so the Mina steps up and she says, you think I came here for For money? I came here. I'm marrying you for your money. Is that what you think? And Mark, because his family is right there staring at him, he says, "Well, Mina, because of our age gap, I think it's a really good idea for us to do a prenup." So then Mina gets upset. She gets emotional, and she ends up walking away. And she talks to us about how I'm not marrying for money. I didn't come here for money. And if I would have known that this is what I was going to be facing, I would not even have come here. I would have just stayed in Paris. Now, this is just the beginning. This is just the tip of the iceberg, because Mark, when his daughter is up in his face, he's going to try to make her happy. When he goes back home with Mina, he's going to try to make her happy. And it's really sad that Mark cannot take a stance. Either you're going to go with your family, your daughter, or you're going to go with Mina. You're not going to be able to have it both ways, because Mina and Jordan are on the opposite sides of this situation here. Okay, their interests contradict with each other. You can't make both of them happy, and you're going to have to choose. And it's okay if you choose your daughter over Mina. Let Mina go home back to Paris. And it's okay if you choose Mina over your daughter, because you have a child with this woman, you love this woman. It's okay, but you need to make a decision, Mark. You can't be playing them both. We can't be riding the fence like this. And he needs to make it known to his daughter, if he wants to stay with Mina, you need to stay the hell out of my business. Excuse me, you need to stay the hell out of my business. Okay, I don't have to check with you about a damn thing, because I'm your father. Okay, I'm your elder. I don't have to run anything by you. I don't have to answer any of your questions. Okay, this is my soon to be wife, the mother of my baby girl. This is my priority. Okay, I'm sorry, but this is my priority. If me and her want to have 10 children, we're going to have 10 children. And you can't say nothing about it. Okay, you're going to have to take a stand. And what I need Mina to understand is, if her soon to be husband is going to be wishy-washy like this, then Jordan is going to be a part of her life and all up in her business for the entirety of this marriage. So Mina needs to make a decision herself. Am I going to put up with this? If this man can't make a decision, if he can't make a stance, am I going to put up with this, or am I just going to take myself back to Paris? And I wish Jordan would have the sense, the common sense, to leave her father alone. Like I said last week, Jordan, it looks like you're doing pretty well for yourself. You and your man. Okay, first of all, your dad is still living. Okay, whatever inheritance he has for you, you're not going to see that money for quite a while. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. It's his money. He can decide tomorrow that he wants to leave you nothing at all. He can decide to leave everything to little Maria. He can decide to leave everything to the next door neighbor's cat if he wants to. That's his money. And you need to be good with whatever his decision is. You don't look like you are wanting for anything. So it's not like you're destitute, you're homeless, you can't make it, you can't feed yourself, you are fine without your father's money. Please understand that and be comfortable with that. And be confident with that. You can do fine without your father's money. Your father might live to be 100 years old. So for the next 40 years, you're going to be sitting here going back and forth and griping about, how he can't do this and he can't do that because it's going to affect your inheritance. Anywho, y'all, let's move on. Let's now talk about Aaliyah and Shawn. So Aaliyah and Shawn meet up with one of Shawn's friends. I forgot the woman's name. And while they're sitting at the restaurant, Aaliyah was telling the friend that Shawn has not really talked about his relationship with her to his family and friends. And so she asked the friend, how much of our story do you know? What has he told you about me? And so the friend says, well, at the time, he told me that he had met this young man named Douglas in Brazil, and, kind of had an idea that y'all were in a relationship. He didn't give me too much detail, but I understood that he had, a significant other named Douglas in Brazil. So every time the friend mentioned the name Douglas, it affected Aaliyah. It was like another nail in her coffin. I mean, it really, really affected her. And her whole demeanor had changed. And even Shawn was saying something like, yes, I told her that I was with this, I was with Douglas. And they kept on bringing up the name Douglas. At the end of the evening, after the friend left, Aaliyah tells Shawn that it made her really uncomfortable to hear this name Douglas because that is her dead name. She is no longer that person. That person is dead and gone. And that whenever they would bring that up, it would hurt her. Well, Shawn's response was, well, you brought it up. Shawn was like, you brought it up because you wanted to know what they knew about you, what I told them about you. Because we know that Aaliyah feels some kind of way that Shawn really hasn't revealed to too many people about their relationship. So that didn't make Aaliyah feel any better at all because he was like kind of defensive about it. So the next day they go shopping and Aaliyah is still down in the dumps about it. And um, Shawn says that he tells us in his confessional that he's not ready to act like Douglas never existed. Aaliyah is ready to act like that. Aaliyah is ready to act like there never was a Douglas. But Shawn says, I'm not ready to bury Douglas. Douglas was a very important part of my life, and I'm not ready just to act like that person never existed. So Shawn had no idea that it was making her feel uncomfortable. And I feel like Aaliyah probably should have explained because it would have educated the friend and it would have let Shawn know that if this happens again, he would know how to act in the future. But it would have been a very educational moment to let them know, hey, don't refer to that name because that person no longer exists to me. I am not that person. And I went through like such emotional turmoil to be rid of that person. And so it just brings up very bad memories, or it just makes me feel really bad whenever that name is mentioned because I had to go through a lot to get over that and to get over my former life, my former identity, what have you. It would have been a teachable moment. I wish you would have said something at the time. And Aaliyah said that she didn't want to say anything to the friend because she thought it would have been rude. But it's rude for her to bring up that name, even though she didn't know that she was being rude. She has no idea what you're going through. And that's why I'm saying it would have been a teachable moment for her to say that. And so if they're ever in a situation where someone is bringing up the name Douglas constantly, Shawn would know how to act. Shawn would be able to tell the person, hey, we're not comfortable with that, or she's not comfortable hearing that name, and this is the reason why. We have to learn. We all have to learn. And I just feel like Aaliyah missed out on a great opportunity to teach the friend and to teach Shawn, something about her journey. That's all. So Shawn said that, okay, so we understood that Shawn was like, I don't know why you're getting mad at me because you're the one that brought it up because you wanted to know what I told them about you. So after that, later on, they're back at the house. Aaliyah cooks dinner. And after dinner, Shawn presents her with a journal, not even a journal, like a scrapbook full of their pictures of them together. And it's the story of Shawn and Aaliyah because years before Aaliyah transitioned, she had given Shawn a scrapbook of, all of their journey together, all these pictures that they took and whatnot of their journey together when she was still Douglas. And so it was the story of Shawn and Douglas. And so to make Aaliyah understand that he is accepting of her as Aaliyah and that he's ready to proceed with her as Aaliyah, he presents her with this journal, which is full of pictures of them together throughout the relationship since Aaliyah transitioned into Aaliyah. And this is just to let her know, this is how I see you now and I accept it. And so I'm giving you this book to show you that. So that was, it was a sweet moment. It made Aaliyah very emotional. She cried tears of happiness. And so we'll see. I don't think that we've moved on from this issue. I think that Shawn is definitely going to still be struggling with accepting Aaliyah as Aaliyah. Okay. I think this is still going to be unresolved. But for now, we'll have a little bit of peace. Moving on to Shakina and Sarper. Y'all, Shakina and Sarper really wasn't much. Shakina and Sarper go out to dinner with a group of Shakina's friends. And in this group, there's Dan. He's part of this friend group. And Dan is someone that Shakina had dated very, very, very casually before she met Sarper. And so Dan was also at the reunion when they were on 90 Day Fiance before the 90 days. He made an appearance at the reunion. He pissed Sarper off because, Dan likes to talk about how, what could have been between him and Shakina. And so he believes that he was the better man for Shakina. So at the dinner, he brings it up again. Everything that came out of Dan's mouth was just to goad Sarper, just to get under his skin. He was just purposely pushing Sarper's buttons by saying that Shakina would have been better off with me. You don't treat her right. I don't think you're serious about her. She's making a mistake being with you. You just see her as a sexual object. You don't really see her as a person, etc., etc. All these things just to piss Sarper off. And Sarper kept his cool. It was hard for him because he wanted to break the French. He called him a French baguette. He said he wanted to break the French baguette in half. He really did, but he kept his cool, and he didn't react. He was very cool, calm, and collected, and Shakina was very grateful for that. But this whole entire scene was like, what are we doing? Because nobody else talked. There was like 3 or 4 other people there, and no one else talked. It was just the Dan show. Dan trying to get under Sarper's skin. That's all it was. And so I didn't understand this scene at all. It was completely pointless to me. And Dan just came off as like, a paid actor for this particular scene. And finally, we have Jessica and Juan. So Jessica and Juan are taking a walk in the neighborhood, and Jessica is asking Juan, "Are you really ready for this? Suburban dad life, suburban family life. Are you really ready for this? You're gonna have to give up your fun and exciting life on cruise ships and traveling the world on these ships, and now you're just going to be stuck in this neighborhood with these kids. Is this what you really want to do?" And Juan convinces her. He's like, "Yeah, this is what I want. I love my child. I love you. Yes, I want to be here. This is what I want." It was very unconvincing to me. But he said this is what he wants. And that was the entire scene of Juan and Jessica. And that's my review. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please don't forget to rate the video. If you like this content, subscribe to my channel, and I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.